The 6th and the 7th verse together gives us the progressive steps towards enlightenment. It gives the threefold spiritual practices, the karma, bhakti, jnanam. As we learned, the three parts serve the primary purpose of exhausting, burning, getting rid of the bulk of vasanas, the bulk of desires, making you introverted, making you qualified for higher spiritual practices. So the three yogas, karma is to constantly perform action for the higher purpose. Bhakti is to disattach your mind, which gets attached to all that you lay hands on. Anything that you possess, your mind gets attached to. So bhakti is primarily a means to dislodge the mind from worldly attachments and develop an attachment to the higher God or Brahman. Karma is to perform actions for a higher purpose, for the larger good. Jnanam is again the intellect which differentiates between the nitya and anitya, eternal and ephemeral. So the primary objective is served is where your mind gets dislodged from the worldly attachments and gets attached to the higher self. That's the purpose of yoga. Yoga is to unite with the higher. And one who does that sufficiently enough, he says, I become along. Very soon I can attain the self. Means you elevate yourself to the higher spiritual practices. We said, what is the sign that you have done enough karma, bhakti, jnanam? Is that you want to withdraw from the world. I'm going tomorrow to Ahmedabad for 1 week. You ask me, I will be there in the lecture hall for those 3 lectures every day, and rest of the day I want to be in my room with my desk. I don't want to go anywhere. Given a choice, as much as possible, I will do that. I don't want to. What is there to see in the world? You may say Ahmedabad, no, nothing there to see. If it is Switzerland, you may want to see. Is it Switzerland or Ahmedabad, doesn't matter. There is no that you want to withdraw from the world. No necessity to run into the world. That kind of rush. There is no force from within you pushing out you into the world. So when you have done the karma bhakti jnanam, that is when the desires from you doesn't push you out into the world. That is when you attain the state of uparati, that mental withdrawal from the world. Only when your mind has withdrawn, that is when you are ready for dharana, which is open-eyed meditation. Open-eyed meditation is nothing but you are able to keep your thoughts on that last goal of self-realization in and through the last few actions that you're performing. So there is open-eyed means when your eyes are open, it means you are extroverted. When your eyes are open, you become extroverted. And when you are extroverted, you are more predisposed or inclined towards action. So during the stage of dharana, during the stage of open-eyed meditation, you are left with, let's say, a handful of desires, or 10 desires you have got. And in and through those 10 desires, you are only seeing, you're only envisioning, you're only thinking of the goal of realization. There is no other thought. So everything that you do in those last few desires, you are thinking of the goal. So it is open-eyed, means you are acting in the world, but you're becoming meditative, means there's only one purpose, which is the goal of realization. So open-eyed suggests you are performing actions. Meditation means there's single pointed thought to that particular goal. But that single purpose reflects in all that you do. That is dharana. Once you cross the stage of dharana, comes dhyana, where you sit at a point. And when you sit at a point, you don't keep your eyes open, you shut your eyes. When you shut the eyes, you are disconnecting with the world. There is no action at all. The last stage of your sadhana is to sit quiet, and you're trying to remove the last thought, the last desire, the last vasana. That's when meditation serves. I'm not trying to being bullish or trying to be too over smart, but I'm trying to tell you where it fits in. Meditation is only meant to remove the last thought. And in that stage of meditation, when you actually meditate, you remove the last bug. That when you are cleansed of impurities, you get to the self. So karma bhakti jnanam, uparati, dharana, which is open-eyed meditation. Then it is single-pointed meditation, which is seated at a place. And then comes samadhi, which is realization. This two verses 6 and 7 gives these progressive steps to enlightenment. Now, in the 8th mantra, he talks of the highest spiritual practice, where he actually spells out meditation. So we will chant the 8th verse, please. Mayyeva mana adhasva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivashisyasi mayyeva, ata urdhvam na samshayaha. Mayyeva mana adhasva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivashisyasi mayyeva, atha urdhvam na samshayaha. Here he says, fix your mind on me. Mayi eva mana adhasva. Adhasva means fix. Mayi buddhim niveshaya. Place your intellect in me. You shall then no doubt live in me alone, live alone henceforth. You shall nivasishyasi. You shall live. Nivasaha means is residing. If you achieve that objective of your mind on me, your intellect in me, henceforth you shall live in me. Most people will not be able to do justice to this verse. Not that I'm claiming I'm going to do. It's something very, very profound. What is said here, you should be able to differentiate this verse from the other verses. Must have the eye. Seems innocuous. Seems elementary in the choice of words, but it is one of the most profound verses. It's actually spelling out the meditative practice here. He spells out meditation. Again, I repeat, if you're extroverted, it is impossible to keep your mind thought on the self. You can't concentrate on the self. You can't place your mind on the self. Why? Because you have too many desires, too many vasanas. You can't keep your mind on the self. Mind is not available. In order to keep your mind available, what do? Go back to karma, bhakti, jnanam. Once you have done sufficient enough, then when your mind becomes ready, that's when you do it. Now, what is the definition of meditation? Let me spell out the definition first, and then I explain the process. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, 53rd verse, second chapter, 53rd verse is the first time he's actually talking of meditation. He's actually giving us what happens at the verge of realization. He's actually dramatizing what is that experience at realization. Nowhere else it's captured as beautifully as in the 53rd verse of the second chapter. I will draw your attention to that. But let me define meditation, the complete definition. Meditation is the art of keeping your mind. It's an art of keeping your mind upon a single thought. An art of keeping your mind on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. Means there is no other thought, to the exclusion of all other thoughts, under the supervision of your powerful intellect. An art of keeping your mind on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts, under the supervision of your powerful intellect. It is not my definition out of my hat. I am not producing it from nowhere. Now go back to the 8th verse. He says, fix your mind on me, place your intellect in me. So most people, when they talk of meditation in the marketplace, they don't talk of intellect. The role of intellect is not there, nor spelled out, nor clarified. They only say, try to keep the mind on a single thought, try to concentrate or try to chant a mantra. But the role of intellect is completely absent. And in fact, when the intellect does not play any role while meditating, it is not meditation. Even if you may be able to keep your mind on a single thought, mark my words, you may achieve the end of mind by itself on a particular thought, but if the intellect doesn't play a role, it is not meditation. Now can you please share the 53rd verse of chapter 2. All of you can see the screen there. Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhi tada yogamavapsyasi. Now this is the 53rd verse of chapter 2, where I don't think the translation is there, right? You don't have translation, all right. Now, what the verse reads, he says, when your intellect is perplexed by what has been heard, when your intellect has been perplexed by what has been heard, shall stand immovable and steady in meditation, then you will attain yoga, which is self-realization. He's actually capturing the point where the seeker merges with the self, the point where the individuality is lost and the man gains realization. I repeat the translation. When your intellect, perplexed by what has been heard, shall stand immovable and steady in meditation, then you will attain yoga. He's actually dramatizing what's happening at the point of realization, how it happens. Now, go back to the definition of meditation. Now, let me put the entire order so that you are able to relate to what is being intended to highlight. Now, what we said is the karma bhakti jnanam. You drop your vasanas, then you reach a state of uparati. After you do uparati, what do? Dharana. After dharana, it is dhyana, right? Now, during dhyana, what is happening? The mind chants Om, this silence. This is known as matra, amatra. Sound, silence. There's sound, silence. Sound, silence. Sound, complete silence. So when the mind is chanting, what is the intellect doing? It observes the mind chanting. It keeps the mind on the chant. It observes. It controls the whole process. Now, when you come to a point where these three dots, which I am extending here, pointing here, when your mind reaches that state of silence, when does your mind reach a state of silence? When there is no more thought. The last thought has died. The last thought has died. When the mind is silent, that means last thought is burnt away. I will explain the logic and science behind it. I'm only giving you the process. When the mind becomes silent, in the silence, the last thought burns away. What has been happening? The intellect has been overseeing all this drama. Om, Om, Om. The mind is chanting, the intellect is observing. Now what happens? The last desire, vasana, is become There's no more strength. It is dried. What remains? Silence. When the mind is silent, intellect is perplexed, because the intellect has not ever experienced that silence in its entire existence. Stunned, spellbound. It doesn't know what's happening. So, first the mind goes, next the intellect goes. When the intellect is perplexed, why? Because it's not able to fathom the silence. That point of being perplexed is self-realization. That wow moment. That's what the verse says. When your intellect is perplexed by what has been heard, it's past tense. There's no more sound. What is heard? The mind chanting the mantra Om, that was heard, and what remained, what followed that sound is silence. There's nothing more to be heard. In that total silence of the mind, the intellect has no other job to do. The job of the intellect is to discriminate. The job of the intellect is it exists only when there's a pair of opposite. When there are two thoughts, the intellect has got a job. When there's only one thought, intellect is jobless. The mind is gone, the intellect is gone. That's the depth of individuality. And all of this happens as a flash. It's not, I'm only putting it in a stage by stage. That moment of awakening, that moment of realization is where your mind has to be completely blank and extinct. There is no further thought or vasana. There is no desire, no thought, empty. In that state of vasana-lessness, your mind becomes extinct. When your mind becomes extinct, your intellect is shocked. It doesn't know. It has never experienced that silence. And in that perplexed state, you reach that state of self-realization. And why it is perplexed? Because it is beyond your intellectual experience. Self-realization is not an intellectual experience. So it's stunned. Oh my God. That kind of an experience. Hmm? Which we don't understand. Again, these are all words which we may beautifully capture, but we can't capture that actual experience because we are far from it. It's only what we are trying to do is intellectualize it. But this is what is being suggested in it is spelled out in the chapter 2, 53rd verse. It is being suggested in the 8th verse of chapter 12. He spells it out here. But the whole point where you need to understand is the role of the intellect. Some may say, oh, I'm able to meditate. I'm able to keep my mind on a single thought or any thought. But if it is not monitored, if the intellect does not play a role, it is not meditation. So important is the intellect must be aware of the chant right throughout. If it is not, you are not meditating. In the modern day meditative proposal, neither the guru nor the shishya have intellect. So it is just.
Not the intellect also subsumed, but final stage. Intellect is also absorbed. There's no more.
No, the intellect is lost only after the mind is gone. Obviously, Nothing is obvious here. What I'm trying to say is, you need the intellect until you have completely mastered the mind.
There's no way that people are going to get this state.
That's what comes after that, what is that actual realized state is anybody's guess, unknown. But what we are dealing with is, till that last ounce of effort, what a sadhak must do, how it should be done, it is all being spelled out here. So right from the karma, bhakti, jnanam, you are getting a mastery over your desires, your vasanas, you are cleansing your mind of the impurities, elevating your mind to a point where there is no trace of a thought in the mind. So it is a humongous process of purifying the dirt which I have acquired from aneka janma. It's not a joke. You need to put in humongous effort to remove that mala, that spiritual dirt. Now come to the last, and all of that is not possible without the intellect playing a role, without the wisdom. I have to pick up a higher desire for the lower to drop. I need to get attached to the higher for the lower to drop. That is, as I said, 90% of your spiritual sadhana is karma, bhakti, jnanam. That cannot happen without knowledge and intellect. Agree? Now, even while meditating, we are saying there has to be the role of intellect. Now, many may argue, may say, sir, why should the intellect play a role? What is the role of intellect in meditation? The objective is to keep your mind on a chant, right? If the mind by itself is able to chant a particular thought or keep itself on a particular thought, what is the problem, sir? I am able to keep my mind on that thought. Why should I use my intellect? Why are you talking of buddhi here? The verse also says, no? Clearly it says, mind must be on me, intellect also must be on me. Now, I'll give an example, couple examples. I go to a movie. I am enjoying the movie. So much so, I forget everything that's happened before me going into the movie. I'm not even worried of what's going to happen after the movie. I just went for a stress release. I just want to enjoy a couple of hours. So while you are in the theater, you're so completely lost in the entertainment. Your mind has not left the theater. The mind has not left the screen. Are you meditating? Can you call that meditation? But the objective is met, where the mind is all the time in the classroom. Lost, absorbed, consumed by what's happening there. Can you call that as meditation? Point one. Second example is, a lover is thinking of his beloved. He or she is lost in the thought of the other. She can't stop thinking of him, he can't stop thinking of her. Can you say she is meditating on him and he is meditating on her? Can you say that? Because what is the definition? Remove that role of intellect. The art of keeping the mind on that single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. Anything he does, he only thinks of her. Anything she does, she thinks only of him. So do we say, oh, they both have reached that exalted state of meditation, they are only meditating ananya chinta? Can we say they are meditating? Vasantama? Can you say they are meditating? Why not? Oh, don't use the word intellect. Tell me why they are not meditating. The objective is met. The mind is only on that. It is not wandering anywhere else. Now it's possible you sitting in the classroom or those on screen that your mind may wander, isn't it? It's possible that your mind has gone here and there. Right now, your mind would be wandering here and there. So you'll have to pull your intellect. Hey, come on, yeah, you've come all the way to attend the Gita class. Let us be here. Let my mind be here for this 1 hour. Let's not think of anything else. Afterwards, we'll think of it. Isn't it? There you have to bring the mind back here, but not in a theater, or not when the lover is thinking of. He doesn't have to put effort to stop thinking. Only thinks of that.
Thought, global thought is selfless. Actually,
Sir, it doesn't matter what you think of. As long as you maintain single pointed thought, it's meditation.
no.
It doesn't matter what you think of.
That is thought is a very purpose, very noble, very selfless. That's what it is. Gardening also meditation.
Sorry?
Gardening also meditation.
Gardening also meditation. Right. Again, it is you get lost in that particular practice. You may get lost or consume in it. It can't be meditation. It could be music. You can get lost or immersed in singing. Is that meditative state? I don't know. There's a story, and I will mention it briefly. There was a cowherd boy who used to take cattle to grazing, and he sees a Swami sitting deep in the woods, and he used to go and sit and admire at him because he has nothing to do. The cattle are busy, and he just looks at him, just spending time, no company. He used to sit there, and suddenly the boy disturbed the Swami, and he strikes a conversation. He said, "Who are you?" In a sense, he didn't have to guess because he could hear the cattle at the distance, and by the robe, he knew he was a cowherd boy. Then this boy asked the Swami, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm meditating." To which the boy innocently said, "I also want to meditate." "Oh, you want to meditate?" Then he just said, "Keep chanting the word buffalo." Because he could relate. This is a cowherd boy, and all the time he's with cattle. So chant the word buffalo. So the story goes, he was so sincere, so diligent in what he was told to do. He kept chanting the word buffalo continuously, meticulously, ananya chinta. Story goes, no sooner he attained moksha. It's there in the Shastras. It's not my story. So what is the message here? Doesn't matter what you think of, as long as you bring that sense of ananya chinta to it. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be only of Lord Shiva or Krishna or Hare Krishna or Rama or Hanuman, or it doesn't have to be any thought. As long as you bring it to the Ananya Chinta and get to that point of what's the equation on the board, you fulfill that, you attain moksha. Because what you need to do is get rid of thoughts. It is replacing one with the other, one with the other. Come to a point where there's nothing else to be replaced with. I replace one thought, a lower thought, with a higher thought. That is yoga, isn't it? What are you doing in karma bhakti jnanam? Replacing the lower vasana with a higher vasana. Once that you reach that state, that it stagnate. What do? I drop this, pick up something higher. Then what do? Drop this, pick up higher. Keep dropping the lower, picking up the higher. As you keep going up the ladder, then you reach state uparati, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So all the purpose is, how do I climb the ladder of dropping the lower vasana, picking the higher vasana? So it's quality over quantity. I pick up better quality, the lower drops. That is spirituality, that is spiritual sadhana, that is growth. Dropping of the lower, picking up the higher. So the whole objective of the whole chant, the whole exercise of meditation is a very conscious process, is where your intellect is constantly monitoring the chant. So obviously you all have said that it is not meditation. Two lovers thinking of each other is not meditation. Getting lost in any practice is not meditation. Why so? What's the actual difference? What do you call that? When two lovers are thinking of each other, what do you call that?
Is an emotion where intellect is not involved.
An emotion where intellect doesn't play a role. All right? Not wrong at all, sir. What is playing a role there? Desire.
Desire in the mind.
It's the desire in the mind. Attachment. Infatuation. What else? No, I said even watching a movie. You're talking of gardening or singing music. Doesn't matter. You don't have to be uh, dismissive of something which is natural. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? You went through it. I went through it. What's wrong with that? You're only falling a prey to it is wrong. Nothing wrong with it. But what is wrong is the mind by itself driving you into an action ungoverned by the intellect. So even if your mind, the same mind which a lover thinks of the beloved, the same mind which gets lodged in singing, the same mind which gets fascinated with gardening, the same mind which gets thinking of something higher, the same trend continues. That mind is not different. I don't see a difference between a lover thinking of the beloved, the state of his mind, or a devotee meditating today, same state of mind. The nature of the mind is same, is what my point is. There is no role of intellect there, neither is a role of intellect here. So mind is fascinated with something. It could be, my mind is fascinated with Krishna. My mind is fascinated with Rama. My mind is fascinated with Allah. What do I do? Mind gets attached to it. As a result of its attachment, it is not going anywhere else. What's the difference between a mother getting attached to a child or lover getting attached to a lover? No difference. A man is attached to his business, is thinking of business. Is he meditating on business? Seriously? Meditating on business, Bevcon meditation, not buffalo. Bevcon, 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 Bevcon. Srinivas Reddy attained realization. Why? Only thinking of Bevcon all the time. Huh? Tajima? Bevcon Industries. Correct, eh? No, if my mind is constantly into that, is it meditation? Now I'm answering. Uncontrolled indiscipline subconscious thought flow is indulgence, and it is done by the mind. Control, discipline, conscious thought flow is this is the fundamental difference between the two. Keep the screen as it is. Uncontrolled, indisciplined, subconscious thought flow is indulgence. So when your mind rushes to something and mind gets hooked onto something by itself without the intellect, it is indulgence. It is not controlled. It may go to the direction, like you may be thinking of the higher. You may be thinking of the Lord. You may be thinking of whatever. But it is, since it's not conscious, since it's indiscriminate, it is indiscipline, it's indulgence. And what does indulgence do? Aparagaru. Can you tell me, when you indulge in any activity, when your mind gets indulged in any activity, what is the result?
Sir, indulgence would actually lead to some kind of fanatism, or I would say that a kind of lust. It will develop into a kind of lust if you're indulging in something, and it will only create further weakness of your mind.
Not wrong? Can you all answer in the context of meditation and the verse and the concept we're discussing? What does indulgence do? What are we discussing here?
So, indulgence will only disturb your mind, Guruji. In the meditation concept, it is going to disturb your mind because you are actually losing the focus when you thought of thinking of if, trying to acquire something, or when you're trying to, I don't know, I'm unable to express, sorry. It is going to disturb. That's what you may lose the true purpose of whatever you're doing if you are indulging.
All right. Vijay, any thoughts? What does indulgence do to your mind?
Hare Krishna. When indulgence only creates more desires, which gives the mind more power. I mean, the purpose of meditation is to lose the mind, not to give it more power, no?
Correct. That's the point. That was I'm looking at. When you indulge in anything, it is feeding the mind more. It's like adding fuel to fire. What happens? The fire gets inflamed. So when you indulge in any activity, it is creating more desires. Huh? No. Sir, in the context, when you indulge in something, which is a predominantly activity of the mind, it only feeds the mind. It makes the mind stronger. It creates more desires. But the purpose of meditation is to starve the mind, not feed the mind. You're trying to remove the mind of, free the mind of thoughts. But by indulging, you're feeding the mind of thoughts. So the objective is not met. Therefore, in any act of meditation, it has to have a conscious process of the intellect. Only when the intellect is playing a role, that is when you don't feed the mind. So you are able to keep the mind under complete governance. It's a highest of scientific activity. It's like, in our own worldly sense, it's like an astronaut in space. You and I are unfit for it. You need to be so qualified, extremely sharp with your physical and mental and your ability to execute, that even in that extreme outspace, you are able to carry on your duties. Immense pressure on the body. Or it's like a fighter pilot flying the jet at 3G, 4G. Jayashrima, I'm reminded of Sanjay. Jayashrima's son is a fighter pilot. So
Yes, yes.
when they're flying the flight at that high supersonic speeds and the body is being put through that amount of pressure, you have to control that jet. Forget controlling, you have to take decisions, you have to use ammunition, you have to evade all that, you have to control all that, and it's all happening at that mind-boggling height and mind-boggling speed and mind-boggling pressure on your body. You and I, an ordinary man, can't do that. So even to reach the mind to that state of open-eyed meditation itself is a great thing. Forget sitting at a point and meditating. I'm being true to the term. I'm being 100% true to the terms the text uses, the original author, what he conveys, I'm trying to attempt to convey. It's easy to not do justice to these shastras. But having taken this seat, it takes extraordinary commitment to do justice to each word, what they are saying, each punctuation, what it's meant to. As a singer, you would know, you have the liberty, but you don't go against the original raga. You can't do that. You can't play with that, can't you? That's destroying the music itself. That's disrespectful to the very art itself. You have to follow. You have to uphold that sanctity. You can't tamper with it, right? And the madri, every word, every breath these masters are saying has to be justified. It's not to say who is right, who is wrong, but so that you don't err on the wrong side. That's the only reason we are saying today the practices which are being prescribed, they don't encompass these essential aspects where the intellect has to play a role. The objective is not met. And again, I repeat, lastly, I say meditation will only serve the purpose at the last stage, not before that. So you may do it, but it will not serve the purpose. Its purpose is only there. At the point where you cross dharana. Once you cross dharana, then you sit in dhyana. It will not serve. You may try. Please, you may carry on whatever you're carrying on.
The very purpose is no meditation.
I'm sorry, sir?
The very purpose is no meditation.
I don't get you. What do you mean, sir, by that? Can you use the mic, please? Yeah, she's got it.
Check, yeah. There is no purpose in any meditation. If you have a purpose, it's not meditation. There's no thought, no purpose, nothing. Well, then only meditation can happen. It's like deep the deep state of rest, what we get. You get in a deep sleep state. That's a consequence.
Mm.
In fact, if you can bring that when you are awakened state, that is meditation as per Ramana. He makes it very clear, Chumma iru. It's not the word, it's the mind. Stop the chattering of the mind.
But the point we are saying is, when will the mind stop chattering? Only when it has nothing to chatter on. And when will it have nothing to chatter on? When there is no seed of vasana in you. Only when the seed is gone. Sir, every time I come to the institute, I see, every day I come. I connect with the gardener. Once a week, that fellow comes. And I follow up with that fellow. Hey, I see, do you also notice, when you go out in the lawn, he has not mowed the lawn, nor has he picked the weeds out. I asked him, hey Rambabu, why are you not removing the weeds? Is it not dirty? Don't you say ugly? Guruji, I know what I'm doing. I know. And he tells me, with due respect, he says, Guruji, why I'm not weeding them? The moment I weed them, I don't pull them out from the complete root. So there's some residue of root and again it will come. It's going to come back again if I keep pulling them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a kind of some kind of a spray. I'm going to spray a medicine. After the weeds grow sufficient enough, I'm going to spray, which is not going to kill the grass, but only going to kill the weed from the root. So it will not come back again. So please allow it to grow. It may look shabby now, but I will do it at that point. I will remove it from the root, not to pick it, not to pull it, because that's only temporary. That kind of process is aneka janma effort, sir. That's all right. To be able to sit quietly at a place, and when the great Ramana said, don't chatter, he has done aneka janma effort to reach that point where he could sit in Tiruvannamalai and say, Chumma ire. You and I say Chumma ire is making a big joke of it.
There is no this thing that this is not the Aneka Janma that you have taken, all of us have taken. There's no such thing that you have not taken that Janma. Right now, your Janma could be your last Janma.
I've been saying that.
It is not that, you would have taken, otherwise you may not take such a human form. If not for such a thing, you won't have not such a beautiful human form with the intellect. And with the intellect, you have to, in fact, what Ramana says, the understanding of the I will happen within the I, not outside. Not the intellect. Intellect also to be dropped like the last pole vault, what you have to drop. You cannot carry anything. If you carry intellect, there is no meditation. Meditation is only without any of these things. Because whatever is in your control, it cannot be there. Like you say, you have gone to a place called Timbuktu. Now you have gone to a hill station, Himalaya. You could explain it. This is not a place for you to explain it. It's not a concept you can say you have gone and you come there. Meditation, there's nothing happens. It is not nothing actually. It is everything. Purnamidam. It's a state of Purnamidam. Actually, it's a consequence. Ramana says when you can do it in your sleep, you bring it when you are awake.
As only example, sir. What?
Sir, Ramana simply says it is your nature.
Amma, sir.
Atmakalam, that is your it is already obvious. You are not understanding it. That's what he says.
Yeah, correct. But the problem is now I'm falling a prey to the nature of the mind. My nature of the mind is asthira and chanchala. It's the monkey mind I have to deal with. The day the monkey starts meditating, it becomes Hanuman. Why do you worship Hanuman? It's because Hanuman achieved that state of overpowering its nature. Hanuman lost the nature of a monkey because he was only meditating on Rama. That's the reason you worship a monkey. Otherwise, why you worship a monkey? Not because it helped Rama. Not because of that. The why a monkey becomes a god is because a monkey lost its nature. It became transfixed on the thought of Rama. So each of us, when we say this ladder, each of us are in the ladder. We may quote these great shastras, great men, each one had their own way of expressing that experience. But the means, the formula to get there, you have to surrender to the shastras. These people have spelt it out. A master may not give us the complete science. Einstein did not speak the complete truth. He only gave a part of the science, isn't it? Can you take what Einstein said as authority and say what Einstein said alone is science? No, cannot. Can you take what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said as that alone is the reality and nothing else is the reality? No, what he gave is a part of the truth. He did not give the complete truth. Bhagavad Gita is not giving the complete truth. He's giving a part of the truth because Lord Krishna spoke to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna was not an Upanishadic student. So the Gita is not a complete text. No master by himself can give the complete truth. They declared the truth. They gave it out in their own language, in their contemporary language, to the audience whom he had. When Christ spoke, he spoke to the audience at that era.
Shepherds.
You can't say the Bible gives the complete truth. No, no text is complete. That's where you gather a few texts and extract the essence from all of that and say, this perhaps is the science of Vedanta, which gives you introduction, application, and the essence. Three facets of the truth. But let's not sell ourselves to any personality, any authority. End of the day, you got to see the logic behind the science of Vedanta. As long as you see the logic behind the science of Vedanta, you become a student of Vedanta. Don't be sold to personalities or celebrities. Let's not. The moment I sell myself to celebrities, that very moment I become a slave. I don't use my intellect. We don't want to reach that state. So, getting back to the point here, the verse very profoundly captured in the 8th verse, mentioned in the 53rd verse of chapter 2, which highlights what is meditation, which is the art of keeping the mind on a thought to ensure that there is no other thought, and it is done with the conscious application of the intellect. As long as you reach that state, it is meditation. One who does that, he says, no doubt, such a person will live in me alone. Means you reach that state of Brahman. Okay. He continues to the next verse. He gives alternate practices for those who can't practice what was said in the 8th verse. 9th, please.
Yeah, Guruji, Apparo has been raising his hand.
My screen is broke. I can't see that section of the screen here. Yes. Apparagar, sorry, sir. I'm not able to see. Some damage has happened to the screen here.
Guruji,
Yes.
one is indulgence, I understood, and thanks to Vijay Gar explaining it very well, fueling the thoughts, and
Thanks
so
to whom? Hello.
Vijay Garu, when you asked the question, he actually, I could not explain it properly.
Hello.
And
Last webinar, I am talking here, and suddenly you are praising Vijay ji.
so
Use the word J with N.
Vijay ji, okay.
Hello. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah,
Please,
Guruji.
J with N, and then only otherwise, please mute Aparagaru. I don't like you. Huh?
It doesn't matter, sir. It's your mind speaking, not your intellect.
What is it, Vijay? You have mesmerized him. He has become your fan now. Huh?
Yeah, I have become his fan because I could not get those words.
Ungrateful. Cha. My heart is broken now.
Okay. Guruji, coming to this thing, I need some help and clarification.
It is
The
broken.
thing
My heart is broken. Huh? Sorry, sir. Tell me, please.
The thing is, applying intellect is again thinking intelligently and reasoning. So that is also disturbing my meditation, isn't it?
Sorry, can you come again?
Applying intellect is thinking intelligently and reasoning. So that is also disturbing my meditation. And for, you have given example of a farmer removing the weeds and other things. I actually think that the thing is, it is very or it is impossible to remove all the weeds and grow something. And one should be like the trees growing in the forest, like sandalwoods growing in the forest, irrespective of whatever may be the weeds, and they culture the same thing and they make it manure, and one should grow. So it should be a free flow rather than trying to control. Once you put a control, once you apply intellect, then it is getting more disturbed. Mind is getting more disturbed.
My kind advice to you is please surrender to Vijay ji. He will answer you.
No, I can definitely contact him, sir.
Answer this question. Surrender to Vijay Mahbubani. Correct, Vijay ji? Have I pronounced your name correctly? Sir, please help your devotee.
Mahbubani.
Oh dear, I'm in trouble already. Even when I don't do anything, I'm in trouble. Well, the only thought that comes to me on the question that you mentioned is meditation is like a laser, right? So you have to, the laser is controlled, it's not uncontrolled. And without having that laser pointed one focus at one point, that laser itself will dissipate, like it just merges with the infinite. So I mean that's the visualization I get when the intellect is fully controlled, and at one particular time then even that dissipates.
Appara Garu, so you're talking of the intellect being engaged in the process of meditating. Perhaps that exercise of intellect controlling itself is a source of distraction. Now, all of that, I made a statement that all of that happens at a flash. I have just dramatized it. I have just put it in stages so that you know what's happening. Where there is a struggle, that means your mind is more powerful than intellect. But we are talking of a stage of a seeker at the verge of realization. He has got an astounding intellect because he's already conquered the entire asura of the mind. He's already conquered it. He has already eradicated all the vasanas. He is only dealing with the last residue of the mind. So the intellect is quite qualified to deal with it. And it is just, in fact, the job of intellect there is just to observe the chant. Intellect is not doing anything. What is intellect? What is the mind doing? The mind is chanting the mantra.
That's right.
What is the job of intellect? To observe the chant.
To observe the chant, and at the same time,
The point is, when the chant dies away into silence, that is when the intellect is perplexed. Because it has no other opposite to deal with. The last pair of opposite the intellect is dealing with is sound, silence. Sound and silence. And when there's no more sound of the mantra Om, and when there's only silence, mind is extinct, the intellect is extinct. And that stage, the intellect is only observing. It is not rationalizing, it is not analyzing, it is not discriminating, it is doing nothing. It is just observing, just like you are observing me and I'm observing you, the intellect is just observing the mind. It is an effortless exercise. But the problem, if you talk of it now in our current scenario, the mind is,
wandering.
oh, it's a constant soliloquy. Mind is never sleeping. It's a constant soliloquy. Mind is constantly going. Why? Through desires. And my intellect is not able to control the mind. Is it able to control? So it is to give a reality check to where I am and where one should reach. So you and I will struggle today to keep the mind calm, not at that state of meditation. Any amount of struggle to keep the mind aloft in meditation means you're not ready for it. That practice of meditation must be an effortless exercise, effortless. If there is any ounce of effort, not ready for it. Go back to sadhana. That is what he's saying in the 9th verse and 10th verse. If you're not ready for it, go back to abhyasa. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Guruji. It's, basically intellect is a shakshi there, nothing else.
Sir, one of the roles of intellect is it has to be a sakshi or a witness.
Got it. Thank you.
What gets involved is the mind. What gets detached is the intellect. So intellect is an objective, detached witness to the things that's happening around. That's one of the definitions of intellect. Intellect is an objective, detached witness.
Thank you, Guruji.
Right, sir. And where does the intellect get the quality from? The intellect we said as detached, objective witness. Where does the intellect get that quality of being an objective, detached witness?
It is getting from the knowledge that you have gained so far as per this thing. It is Shruti Pratyena, that word is there. After you have learnt everything, then it is observing what is happening next.
Perfect, perfect. Ramji, where does that intellect get that quality from? Madam Mullan சொன்னாரு. நீங்க பாத்தீங்களா அந்த ஆன்சர் இங்க chat boxல.
Wisdom.
Ramji.
Yes, sir. What did you ask, sir?
The question is, we said the quality of the intellect is to be an objective,
Yeah, detached witness. Yeah, yeah.
Where does the intellect get that trait from? Manasachilla.
I suppose it should be from the conscience.
Sir, நீங்க பேசுங்க. Too many people are talking and distracting me here.
Oh, okay, okay. I don't know the answer, but I can guess that it must be the conscience or consciousness, whatever the conscience, I feel, which gives this. When we say that the pure consciousness is the one which actually is the one which we are trying to attain finally, because the conditioned consciousness we are leaving and then we are going towards the pure consciousness. I am assuming that the pure consciousness is the one which gives the intellect that power to be detached sakshi.
In a way, you're right, but the connection is the intellect is a product of wisdom.
Wisdom, yeah.
Wisdom is reflection of the self. So if I am a wise man, that wisdom I am endowed with is expression of the Atman or Brahman in me. So what is the true witness to the whole world is the self. The Atman is a witness. So when my intellect, through the knowledge knowledge of the self, Atma Vidya, when my intellect exercises in the Atma Vidya, I gain the wisdom. The essence of Atma Vidya is the wisdom. And what is the wisdom? It is nothing but reflection of the self. So the self expresses through the wisdom on your intellect, and you exhibit the quality of the self through the intellect on the mind.
The sentence must be recapitulated. What you just now said.
Don't ask me to repeat it.
I think it's recorded.
It's recorded. Many a time it is just that it is that moment. You don't prepare for it because all the time we're preparing. It's a constant preparation. When you don't have to prepare for a talk, you ask me, did I prepare for the class? No. There's a preparation for the class because it's throughout preparation only. Constant study. When that is there, then you're ever ready for it. And in that moment of readiness, these moments of you are surprised. My God, there's something extraordinary. So the intellect is a product of wisdom, and wisdom is the measurement, actually a reflection of the self. And the self is a true witness. I want to chant the 9th verse, please. I want to just do this for a few more minutes. Please bear with me. Atha chittam samadhatum न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततः मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततः मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय. If you are unable to fix your mind steadily upon me, then seek to reach me by Abhyasa Yoga, which is the yoga of practice, O Dhananjaya. So what is being said here is, if you can't practice what was prescribed in verse 8, do Abhyasa. What Abhyasa? Go back to mantra 6 and 7, Karma Bhakti Jnanam. People will interpret Abhyasa, keep practicing again, sit, meditate, do more Abhyasa, you'll control the mind one day. Misread of that. It's like a yoga teacher will say, sir, I'm not able to touch my toe. Keep stretching slowly. One day you'll touch it. And the madri. Correct? Huh? If I have to sit in what you call a halasana. Halasana is you stretch your legs out and you try to, what is it? Adilya. When you stretch your legs out and try to touch your toe, what is that asana? What is other name for that? Okay. That. So initially when you touch hold your thighs, hold your knees, hold your calves. One day you'll be able to hold your toes. Practice. Keep practicing. Oh, I'm not able to meditate. Abhyasa. What? Keep sitting meditation. No. When you know you can't meditate, go back to Abhyasa. Abhyasa refers to verses 6 and 7. Go back to the Karma Bhakti Jnanam. Because only a prepared mind is competent to meditate. An unprepared mind cannot meditate. A prepared and a competent mind is an introverted mind. An extroverted mind cannot meditate. So don't push an extroverted mind to meditate. It will do harm. It will not serve the purpose. So make it worthy to meditate. Is the kind advice which the Lord gives us. And he gives couple more alternative practices if you can't do this. And from the 12th verses till the 20th verse, from verse 12 to 20, he gives 35 qualities of a devotee of God. 35. And you'll be surprised, none of those qualities are ever talked of or ever mentioned by a devotee. So-called devotees. Those who claim themselves to be devotee, a bhakta, they have no clue nor is an iota of idea what these qualities are. And he says, he who has these qualities, such a devotee is dear to me. So he paints a picture of who is a bhakta, who is a true devotee of God. When we come back, we will get into that. Okay. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.